Okay.
Yeah.
I have cherry Coke.
Oh, yeah, I should open mine too. Hold on.
But guess what, guys? This week we got a special one.
I don't know if
I
you
also
heard
got a tasty cake.
it. Yo, the tasty cakes? That's wild. I got some Sour Patch melons.
Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. Today,
It's not.
I'm Dr. Zombbrain, also Seth, with my co-host.
JJ, aka Junior Wolf. I almost said Jared.
I was about to say, what you want to say, Jared?
I'm sorry,
That
I
is
go
a
by
new
Jared at
one.
work. I go by
That-
Jared at work.
That is a new one. I don't think you've ever mistaken that.
No.
By the way, we're coming up on like close to 100 episodes, and that entire time, I don't think you've ever mistakenly almost went by Jared.
Sure, we're not going to talk about it.
Anyway, we're going to be talking about nerdy topics. First, we're going to do a little bit of an update. First, last week, we talked about consoles. And as you all expected, the CEO has officially announced that they will be announcing the Switch 2. We do not know much about it. I saw there might be like magnetic joysticks instead of like the snap. That's about the only thing I saw. It is going to be announced. We do not know a date. It could either be later this year or early next year. But it most likely will be later this year with the holiday season with maybe the PlayStation Pro.
Quick note on that. My brother Kieran did actually tell me Nintendo did technically patent a design for a dual screen, almost like the DS, but it would be more in line with what the Switch is. So they'd do something like that, but they would be able to detach, and you'd essentially have two handhelds in one.
So kind of like a DS, but maybe like the screen on like controls on both sides, so it's almost two consoles, but
Yeah, kind of like that.
interesting. But yeah, so there's that. And then also, I want to talk about this because this kind of is going to go in line with today's episode, which I'm not going to say yet until we cover it. Have you seen the Marcus Brown videos on the Humane Pen and the Rabbit AI?
No.
Have you seen much about like the
Yes.
controversy? So, do you remember Rabbit AI?
Yep.
Do you remember how I also said why not just use your phone because you said it'd be really cool? So it is. So apparently the Rabbit AI is just an Android app. It is just an Android app locked to this device. And both devices are pretty bad. And yeah, so it's kind of funny because we've been talking about consoles and tech, and these both products are out, and the idea is there. Don't get me wrong, right? The idea is there for both of them. It's just they don't have the data to back it up. And like you said, right? You can do Discord and Uber Eats, but it's asking like what the weather is, but it's just giving you the wrong location. It's like, I do not have access to location. I'm just giving you an example. It's like, what? If you can't tell me my location of the weather around my location, why would I trust you to order Uber Eats?
Yeah.
So the idea is there, but it's just too early. And what Marcus Brown said in the Rabbit AI video was it used to be release the item, and then we review the item and we use the item. Now it's they release a half-baked product, and then we get a whole bunch of updates around, right? And there's a review in there, but you can't really review it because it's not there yet, because it's not what we said. We're getting like 50% of the product, right? And that's kind of what we're going with today with AAA Games.
Woo!
Which have...
That was a transition that made sense.
They most of them make sense. You're just stupid. But that is a very common trope that's happening today. In fact, I don't know if you saw, Horizon Forbidden West, right? I think that's the game that just came to a PC, with a PC port.
I think so.
Looks phenomenal, and guess what? It released, and it worked. Which is so sad that we have to celebrate that. That we are celebrating successful launches, not because it blew up, like, you know, like, oh, everyone loved this game, it did so many sales, it just worked. And that is what we're celebrating. That is a successful launch nowadays. A polished, working game. Now, we're going to talk about some controversy that has happened over the last week or two, some different studios, some different games, but we're also going to talk about how there is a new contender for main game studio, and that is, there is not one. It is indie games, and we're going to talk about that throughout the episode. So where do you want to start? What do you know, what do you not know? Because I know I threw a few things at you at the beginning.
There has been a lot going on in terms of studios. I will actually say this ahead of the episode. Just, I think it was today, it was announced that Bethesda, you know, the people behind Elder Scrolls and Skyrim
Fallout.
and all that, they just dropped like 3 of their sub-studios. One of them being the studio that made Hi-Fi Rush, They completely fired everybody from those studios. And mind you, Hi-Fi Rush won 3 big-time, like, gaming awards. One was a BAFTA, one was an actual game award, and then a couple other smaller ones. But that's pretty impressive for a new IP, small dev team game. And they just dropped this entire studio. So I don't really know what a lot of these big...
Which ones were dropped? Because I saw there's also some mergers, right? Kind of like just how there's just all these big studios like Sony and Microsoft are buying these smaller ones. And obviously, they don't need 15 different small studios, so they're kind of combining. They are laying people off, but not everyone's getting fired. Is everyone from that studio getting fired, or are some of those people being merged?
As far as I know, that one is gone completely. I'm not entirely sure. It might have been the sub-Arcane studio. There was like a regional Arcane studio that was in there, and I think that one merged with just another Arcane. But aside from that, they just kind of like dropped them, which makes no sense, and a lot of people are like, why would you do that?
There's a lot of things that don't make sense nowadays, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of... Yeah, that's another thing, right? We kind of talked about this already, I think, a while ago, just with IP. I forget what episode, but just... It's really almost becoming a monopoly, right? Like, we're getting down to the wire on what like, everything is owned by... Already, everything's owned by something, right? When you actually look at, like, companies, whether it's food, whether it's, like, fashion, everything is owned by, like, this parent company, right? And actually, I saw the other day... Still not too sure. I still have to do research, but it looks like there's talks of a merger with Universal and Paramount, meaning, or not Universal, Warner Brothers, meaning we could have Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network combining, which is really big.
Paramount themselves is just in a terrible spot right now because I don't know if you saw, but I think I said it in the chat. Sony put a multi-billion-dollar offer out to just buy them. So there's a lot of companies that are wanting to merge the powers.
So there's that, right? And then that would combine, and that would go against Disney, right? Because Disney owns, like, but, like, that's really just, like, at this point, 2 studios. Because what cartoons do you watch? What are the 3 big developers of mainstream cartoons? You have Cartoon Network, you have Nickelodeon, and you have Disney. Whether it's Disney Junior, Disney XD, you know, Teen Nick, you know, all that kind of stuff. It is all those 3 developers for cartoons. And now it's going to be 2. It's going to be 2 that own, like, PBS, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim's, anime. By the way, if Sony would buy and get, like, into this, Sony also owns how much anime, because now they own Crunchyroll and Funimation. So it is huge monopolies. And I think what we're going to be seeing with gaming as we move forward, because, like, how many small, like, even Hytale is now owned by Riot, technically. See, like, all these small developers aren't really small anymore. It is just these huge publishers, right? Maybe not developers, they're becoming publishers.
Yeah.
But that's where we're seeing gaming right now. First of all, what do you think? Is that a good or bad thing?
Well, it depends
could
on
help.
which companies are happening. Like you brought up the Hytale thing. I don't think that one is bad, specifically because the way Riot's going about it is they're simply giving them the resources they need to develop the game the way they want to. And that is a very healthy way of doing things. And even though they might then get a profit off of the game, it's still allowing it to become what it was originally supposed to be. Whereas big, like, gigantic mergers, like, you know, if Sony and Paramount were to merge, that might not always be the best because, once again, that kind of treads on the monopoly territory. And I kind of foresee that over the next decade or 2, we're going to see either some, not lawsuits, what's the word I'm looking for, like cases, some legal cases happening around monopolies, and whether it be changing those rules a little bit or some companies having to break apart their resources a little more. It's just there's way too much underneath one roof as of now, and so if it continues to grow, then there's going to be some problems because nobody's going to be able to start their own studios anymore.
So there's definitely been some, and then with this, right, monopoly, and they're buying everything up. They're also just kind of scurrying over AAA titles. AAA titles used to be the big main ones, right? That's what everyone enjoyed because they were high quality. They're not exactly high quality anymore, or they're just riddled with disconnect from the community. There's going to be three things I want to talk about. We can probably think of more. We can think of plenty of more from different studios, such as the fabled EA wanting to charge per reload.
Yeah.
Which was a thing. You saw that, right? Like, that's crazy. So, do you want to start with Activision, Sony, or Tarkov?
Let's talk about Sony.
Sony. So, you guys haven't heard this small game, Helldivers. No one's played it. Sony decided, it was released on Steam 3 months ago, and Sony decided you are now required to connect a PSN account in order to play.
Actually, there's a little bit more to that. They wanted to do that initially from launch, but because of how many pre-orders the game had, they knew their servers would not be able to handle the amount of account creation and linking happening, so they decided, we'll wait a little bit after launch, and then we'll publish the feature. And so it kind of created a discord where now you have players that didn't expect this on PC and people on PlayStation who didn't need to worry about it.
So, yeah, and that's another thing that I've seen throughout all this, is I've not seen a definite answer on if this was originally stated or not. I saw a lot of people saying it said at day one that you would need an account eventually. I saw that case by multiple people. Have also said people have read the terms of service, and that wasn't in there. So I'm like, I think it's there, because that makes sense, but it's just not too sure, because I've just seen a lot of confusion around that, and not a definite answer, like no screenshots or anything. It's just word of mouth.
Either
what a lot
way,
of people are saying.
It's kind of terrible because PlayStation accounts aren't allowed in certain regions, whereas the game originally was allowed in all regions. So like you had people in all these different countries playing this game, and then suddenly you have to have a PlayStation Network account, but you're in one of those regions that PlayStation doesn't allow. So then suddenly you can't play the game that you purchased and have been dumping hours into for the past few months.
So, like I said, it's hard. It's not a definite, I can't see it. I can't find a definite answer from if it was stated at launch. But either way, it's kind of crappy now, what they're doing in the community. However, do you know what came out of this? A cool-looking cape. Because everyone disliked it. It actually got more dislikes than Overwatch. It showing
had
support.
A huge review bombing. People absolutely dunked on the game in the Steam reviews to the point where like it was getting no new traction on Steam at all. And so obviously the company had to do something about it.
So Sony has confirmed that they are not going to be going through with that. And that's canceled. They're no longer required. However, it looks like those other there's still some problems with the other regions. So have you heard of Pirate Software?
As in pirating software?
No, as in the person. Like, it's a big studio, great person. He's an absolutely phenomenal person. And he's saying, like, he's going to keep his negative review until it's officially, like, finished and taken away. Because it looks like those other ones, it's still, like, set to launch. Or there's some problems where it's locking them out of regions. So, so we're making progress. It's not fully there, but I think it'll happen eventually.
Can I just mention, I absolutely love that the devs have also played into this with the theme of the game, because the whole theme of the game is like you're fighting for democracy. And so this whole situation is like, yes, the people want this, and so as Sony pulled back, they were like, democracy has won over the Sony forces. They're pulling
many
back.
people.
It was like, that is so fantastic.
So that's great. But I also just saw like a few people, and I'm not saying Sony is innocent, right? Sony definitely, whether they said it at launch or not a great thing, because if they said it at launch, they should have also locked it out of those regions, right? I think if they locked out of those specific regions from launch, I don't think this would have happened, because people would have been like, well, okay, like I have to either log in or make an account, it's there, but now I literally can't play my $40 game. That's, I think, where the big problem is. A lot of people stood up for those people as well, but so much of the community can't do it.
Yeah.
But my problem is, like, I know Sony has had some big data leaks, right? And I see a lot of people bashing Sony and, like, with connecting your accounts, but it's like, haven't like everything had data leaks. I feel like I've seen a lot of data leaks from a lot of huge companies, including Discord, just in the last year or two. So my problem with seeing
data
that
leaks are
and
big.
people complaining about Sony is the fact that, yes, Sony's bad, but so is like all these other ones, but I don't see you like not making a Microsoft account or deleting your Microsoft account because they had data leaks too.
I saw somebody bring up, like, why are people getting pissed at PlayStation for doing this when Xbox has done it for a couple of their games? And the big reason was, one, that region lock. Like, Microsoft has little to no region locks whatsoever. It's like some minority ones that are like against the US that, you know, they have in place. Yeah. So they don't restrict at all. But they also have a lot more in place in terms of that data protection. And obviously, I'm not saying they haven't had leaks, because they have quite often. And, you know, account hacking is a little bit more prominent with Microsoft because they're like a bigger corporation than Sony is.
Not to mention, it's the whole side of Xbox and PC. Like, PC is connected with your Xbox.
Yeah, so you know, if your PC is a little bit weaker, if you don't have a virus protection or whatever.
I don't know if you saw that if you want to keep Windows 10, you're going to have to pay like $60 and it's going to double every year. So if you want Windows 10 protection support in 3 years, it's going to be like $200 if you want to keep that security protection. So like, I understand that, but it's just like, it just feels like people are so pick and choosy. It's like,
Seth,
this is what?
If we were big enough, this would be the perfect plug for a sponsorship.
Which would be
like get NordVPN.
Yeah. Raid Shadow.
Yes, because that will protect your data.
It will. Definitely won't leak it. Anyway, I just ruined all our chances of Raid Shadow Legends. But no, like, that's just my big thing that I've been seeing with this. It just feels like it's so pick and choosy, because I saw the other guy, Jacob, who does great videos, and he's saying his first video, he was like kind of saying we were overreacting, but he generally did not know about the region lock. And then he apologized for that. It's like, that is terrible. But at the same time, Ghost of Tsushima, one of the big Sony games, is coming to Steam, and it is one of the most like highest grossing, like highest rated games on Steam, and it's not out yet. So, like, if you really want to do this, it's like, it's so pick and choose, just Helldivers, right? Versus Sony, which they should happen if you really want change, because if not, this is just going to happen again. Other studios are going to do this. That's just my big thing. I just feel like we need to be more proactive on everything than just this one game, because it's not going to change. Sure, this game won't happen, but what's to say that Sony won't just make that a requirement at launch for the next game, right? So that's kind of terrible. But luckily we did win this time. We did. So that's good.
Yep. Democracy won.
Here's another one that did win. Let's go to Escape of Tarkov. So you said you didn't hear about this game. You don't know anything about it.
I remember like a year or two ago I saw some things about it, but yeah, I'm not very familiar with it.
So it is a hyper realistic shooter from what I saw. I'm talking, you get shot in the arm, your accuracy goes down. Like you can't, like, it's hyper realistic. And there is a $150 version of the game, which will include all future DLC. So if you really want to support it, there you go. You get all the extra stuff. You get future DLC. Is that really a bad deal? I mean, yes, that's a lot of money, but if you get all future DLC and you want to support the devs because this is a really cool community and this and that, is that really that bad?
No.
So, question. Is a new PvE mode DLC?
It depends on if they make it DLC.
What do you mean make it DLC? Is it downloadable?
Yes.
Is it content?
It can be downloadable, yeah.
And is it part of Tarkov? In this case, it would be.
Yeah.
So it's DLC. There is no way around it. It was DLC. It is DLC. It is downloadable content.
Yeah.
So, they said they're going to include a new PvE mode, which will not be a part of the $150 version. Instead, you need to buy a $250 version.
Bruh.
So, the people that were promised all future new content for $150 now have to upgrade to the $250 version.
That's a bunch of baloney.
So, people got mad, and then you gotta watch Penguin's video. Oh my god, ranted about it. It's terrible. So the guy made a response, and it's just the most stupid, like, I don't care. Like, that's pretty much what he said, I don't care. They made a second one saying, to each their own, but I guess we could maybe give you some trial periods. So if you own the $150, you get it for a few months. Then we're going to take it away, and then we're going to give it to some other people for a few months. But eventually, it looks like everyone will own it if you own the $150 version. But the $250 version's still there.
Bruh.
So we did win, kind of, the $250. So that is not a good sign for AAA.
Yeah, I will say it's interesting to see that player bases are kind of realizing the power they have, because obviously boycotting has always been a thing, and it's not always going to be 100% effective because there's always going to be the people that don't care. But with live service games especially, if you mess up in some way and the community gets upset, that's going to spread, because there's going to be the squads that always play with each other, the people who play online with each other, the people who just randomly get in voice chat and start talking.
I think right there is the big difference to what boycotting, when it first started, like when boycotting was a thing and like that's more of a public thing, versus now, what did they not have back then? The internet. When they mess up, everyone knows about it. It is in the voice chats, it's in the Discord logs, you know, it's on Twitter, it's on Instagram, there's YouTube diss tracks and stuff.
Like,
it's
even
everywhere.
Me, who has never played Helldivers, I saw it all over Twitter. So it's going to spread to a point where you're going to... It's going to get to everybody, and then people can make a choice whether or not they want to keep going. And with how bad these AAA studios tend to be messing up, it's to the point where people are like, yeah, I'm just not going to play this game, or, you know, we're going to review bomb so it doesn't get any traction, stuff like that. And it really affects these studios, because once they stop making enough profit off a game, they either have to stop support, or they have to, you know, give in to what the players are asking for and fix their issue.
So I think we're going to see this probably more and more as time goes on, and I think eventually it might start making some change, and we have seen some good games come out. We'll talk about them in a minute, even from big studios. The final thing that I specifically want to mention is the fact that it's just kind of mind-blowing. Activision. I want to talk about Call of Duty for a little bit, because I think that's just a great example of a AAA title that has kind of gone downhill lately. So they had this Godzilla bundles, right? There's multiple bundles. They gave you just cosmetic content, except some of the gun-like cosmetics actually do change the scope. Like, there is I forget which one, there's a thermal scope, and normally, like, it's this specific scale, right? Like, in Ghost, it's this grayscale. So let's take Ghost. Let's say the only thermal scope is this grayscale. So you could still see it, but it's just kind of like a white outline over gray. This one's like infrared. The one you get from the item shop. Like, it changes. It's paid away. So they're not great with that, even though they're cosmetics. Also, I downloaded Warzone just because I wanted to try it out, you know, just play around. And when I try to make my class, do you know what's great? Is if the scope is, there's two different red dots, right? One with a blue dot and one with a red dot. One with the red dot is from a bundle. That is also a separate scope. So there's around 60 different scopes I can choose from per gun. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
So these 4 bundles add up to around $80, which is a lot of money, but not that unfathomable. When we talk about Fortnite, they got $20 legendary skins, right? Like, if you want to buy all the stuff that's in the shop right now, it's how much more? But dude, what's crazy is there's actually this Godzilla fist gauntlet melee weapon thing that you need to buy all 4 to get. So it's an $80 cosmetic.
Bruh.
It's just like, wow. And it's like, we're making fun of them, but then the Tarkov thing happened, and then it's like $250. It's crazy.
I mean, technically, Fortnite did the same thing a while back with the first Shadows set. You know, you had to be subscribed to Crew for 3 months in order to get those extra styles.
That is approximately $30, not $80. You get how many skins? You get the Battle Pass. You get the V-Bucks.
Yeah, but you're also buying 4 bundles worth of items in Call of Duty, which is probably more stuff than you got in Fortnite.
Which, But remember, you don't see your skin because it's a first person.
Unless you emote, right? Then it like goes third person.
Sure. But like, do you see like, really, you have to emote to see your $20 bundle? Like that, sure, you have a little keychain thing, that's about it. Like, so I feel like Fortnite, you get a little bit more bang for your buck because you can actually see it more. So yes, that's kind of the same, but you get so much more. Not to mention you get the in-game currency that you can then choose on top of. So it's a lot less, you get way more bang for your buck. Now that was also before the Rocket League, right? So, but even now, it's even better because you get 2 different game battle passes. But Call of Duty is a great example because it's definitely gone downhill lately. I'd say after Warzone 2019, that's kind of been the decline. It's the new age of Call of Duty, and it's been great in my opinion, with a lot of problems. But there's hope, and there's been good. What kind of things have you seen from the community about Modern Warfare 3, the new one?
That it is not as good as Modern Warfare 2.
Last year's?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's wrong. It is significantly better. It is everything we asked for. The problem was it's a $70 DLC. It's everything we wanted in Modern Warfare 2. It's all the original Modern Warfare 2 DLC, like, maps, remastered. It's all those guns, but it's just shoved into Modern Warfare 3 as an extra new game for $70. So I've seen a lot of good things. It's good. It's a good game. It's just, I don't want to buy it because it quite literally was just DLC. Like, it's not great. But, like I said, though, it has been good. They've made a lot of changes. They're balancing. They're changing the meta. In fact, there is some really cool guns, like the Moors, which is this one-shot sniper that was from Advanced Warfare. We're getting, like, stuff from Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 1, all these old games, and we're getting content in this, which is really cool to see. Like, they're actually listening to the community. They're making changes. And significant amount of people have had fun. The multiplayer is good. Zombies and Campaign are a different story. Campaign was like 3 hours. It was amazingly short. And Zombies, they haven't had like any content since launch. But multiplayer-wise, it's good. So they're making some progress. The big thing that a lot of people are hoping for is this year's Call of Duty. Have you seen that at all?
I think I remember seeing the title.
No, you didn't, because the title's not out yet. Because we're not sure what the title is.
It was a theorized title, then.
Theorized title, because they actually have, like, this redacted thing, and if you can do some basic stuff, like the bottom right's Activision, with the little copyright symbol and stuff, trademark. And then you have Call of Duty at the top, and then it's Black Ops, and the big debate, because we thought it was Gulf War, but then we thought it was Roman numeral 5, for 5, because the last it was Black Ops 4, then it was Cold War. So that makes sense, maybe Black Ops 5, but we thought it was Gulf War. Apparently it's Black Ops 6 now, because there's a gun, like, blueprint that says Sally with a 6, and Sally's, like, an old-school Black Ops 1 gun from, like, with the model. But, anyway, so there's been a lot of hype about that, because they've actually had 4 years of development. So the chance of having a good multiplayer, Zombies, and Campaign, because the last Campaign was significantly better than the other ones, too, along with a branching ending. Lots of hope, right? Not to mention, you might be able to play it because now it's owned by Microsoft. It might be on Game Pass Day 1, which would also do great numbers for it. So there's been a lot of hope. I do have a lot of belief in Treyarch, which is the studio behind Black Ops games, because they also, I feel like, listen to the community a lot more than something like Infinity Ward, which is what made last year's Call of Duty, because they didn't change it at all. So,
well, that's good to hear, then.
It's good to hear. There's hope. And I want to say that because there is chances, and these big names like Call of Duty, obviously most games are not releasing yearly. We are not releasing, this year's a bad one. This year's a good studio. It's generally one game, and if we're getting multiple, it's like 5-6 years apart. But I think that's just a good example of the name of Call of Duty and how it was such a big name, especially back in 2012 with like FaZe. Then FaZe is going down, Call of Duty is going down, but now there's hope again. They're doing good. So, there's some other games that have come out that have also been doing good. Do you want to talk anything? Because I want to talk about Xcompliant, and then that's really the only game I can think of right now. But
go ahead and lead off with that.
So, Xcompliant just had a playtest, and it was just for server stress testing, this and that. They changed a few things around, including matchmaking, where they actually have input locked matchmaking, where you can have crossplay, but if you're playing controller, it would just be with Xbox and PlayStation because you're playing controller. So if you're playing on mouse and keyboard, you'd have crossplay, but it'll just be with PC players. And I think it would lock it. I couldn't play with mouse and keyboard, but if that comes, you would probably be locked, because that's how Call of Duty does it. You can't switch mid-game, so you can't go into a keyboard and mouse that have aim assist, right? Which I think is a good thing, because PC players generally are sweatier. So in a game like Xcompliant, I feel like it's definitely going to be sweatier. So that means you can play, and you'll just have console players. How do you feel about that? As a general multiplayer change for matchmaking?
I mean, I think that would be a lot better than a lot of the stuff we've got in the past, because it's a very tricky, especially with multiplayer games, to try and figure out how to do this kind of back and forth matchmaking, because on any platform you can play with almost any input nowadays. So
yeah,
it's tricky to find which ones you pair with what, but I think that's probably one of the better ways to do it.
And I don't think there's skill-based matchmaking too. So it's just console and console, which is good. Like, it's just pure arcadey fun, which is what Call of Duty used to be. So that's one thing that I think is that I'm not sure if that was in the original, but they've actually communicated with us. Like, they're talking about, hey, these are some stuff that we want to try out. Let's do this playtest with the beta. Hey, here's a good change. Let's change it. We added, removed this and that. And Xcompliant is made by Ubisoft, I believe. So there's a lot of hope for this game because there's a lot of activity from the devs, from the studio, etc., etc. And I think Ubisoft is another great example of overall could be pretty bad because they've definitely done some questionable things, but this is a good game and it's made by them. And it is releasing May 21st, I believe, this month. So it is finally time. We were originally had like a release date of like a month or two ago. Then we didn't have anything, and then the beta came out, or alpha, whatever the playtest was. And now we have a full release. And it will be free to launch, level up. So you should try it. It's going to be fun. But yeah, like, that is a great example of, it is something like Call of Duty. Like, the concept is there, and the people want it. The people want these games. It's just, there's so much things in the way. Like, for Call of Duty, for how many years, those are loot boxes, right? I don't want to play because if I can't play, I'm at a disadvantage because these guys have better guns that you can only get at loot boxes and are gambling. They can spend $200 and they get the weapon, whereas I can only play an hour. I get like 2 boxes a day if I'm doing all my challenges, and I can get duplicate stickers. Like, it's really bad. So, the concept's there, and a lot of these games are like that, right? Like, I think another game that just came out, and the concept's there, not saying the original is bad, but like Souls-like games, right? They're there. People want them, but maybe they don't want to play the super hard rogues-like game. So, what game do you have? Now? Souls-like game? The crab game. No. Another crab's treasure, which you could be a crab that loses his house to taxes, and you have to use the sea waste and microplastics as currency, but you can put a gun as a shell. It's a swag game. Huh?
My gosh.
It's great. You should play it. It's great.
The sad part is I was thinking about it.
But what's great is, and I don't think this would be in like Dark Souls, is there's actually like accessibility settings, because the one reason I don't play Dark Souls is because I do not have the patience to play it. But you can actually give it so you can take less damage. Your shell, which is like a shield and it has health, you can make it take less damage, so pretty much have more shield health. You can take no damage if you really want to, and then you can have a gun. Yeah. So I like that because the concept's there, but but something like Dark Souls should not have something like that, right? Because that kind of ruins the entire point. Whereas this is not that, but it's the premise. And so I feel like so many people are going to enjoy this because there's like some social commentary, but it has these features that can really help someone like me who does not want to play. So I did like take a little bit less damage. Shield takes a little bit less. And I can enjoy it so much more because I don't have to worry about So the other thing is, like, if you die, you lose all your stuff. And there's no save. Like, if you die, you die. I'm like, great. I have to go pick it up again. But I think that those are some great examples of seeing the community wants this. Like, there's a community here, and some of these developers are really... The developers do listen, and they want... It's just a lot of the time, I feel like it's harder with the publishers that kind of screw them over, like Activision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where do you want to go now?
I did want to quickly mention, you said Ubisoft was the developer for that one. That kind of scares me because they are very notorious for microtransactions. Like, very. So
yeah.
I'm kind of worried. Like, it has potential to be worse than most of the Call of Duty games are right now.
No.
If Ubisoft is... No, trust me, I've played a lot of Ubisoft games because they are the people who did Assassin's Creed, obviously, and I played every single one of those games. They have Rayman, I've played some of those games. Watch Dogs, I played the first one there. They have done Far Cry, which I've dabbled in that. But they also own things like Hungry Shark World, which, is that mobile game everybody knows.
Oh, yeah, I know that one, yeah. Do they have a $30 battle pass or selling iconic, nostalgic audio tracks for guns? They added the Intervention, one of the most iconic snipers in Call of Duty. They didn't sound right, so they released a $10 noise track, like it changes the noise.
They charged you for sound effects?
Yep. So
okay, that's pretty bad.
So debatable. It's very debatable if it's gonna be worse than Call of Duty. Like, I know you haven't played. It is really bad.
But Ubisoft finds a way to work microtransactions into everything. Like, the Assassin's Creed games are all single-player games, and yet they still have a cosmetic item shop that works on a rotation that you can buy currency for, and they have their DLCs that don't come with any currency but add more stuff to the item shop.
So, I think it definitely can have a lot. I think what it would be the cosmetics, because there's 4 different factions. It's one of the power ones, right? So there's different factions. They have passive abilities and ultimates and stuff, Xcompliant. And they have like 3 different characters per. I think if anything, it would just be cosmetics. I know there is some weapon camos that are supposed to come, like Mastery, so it might be some of those, which the only thing I'd be scared about, because I don't think Call of Duty is really expensive, and I think as long as they don't do the attachments, which I don't think Ubisoft would do, I don't have a problem, no matter how much there, because you can still play the game. You still have access to all the new guns at launch, the new maps, as long as that kind of stuff is free with updates, and it's a free game, so it probably will be. My big problem is, I have this problem with Call of Duty, a lot of them, is there's some really basic wraps, or camos, right? It's just some camouflage, it's really basic. But then the Mastery camo can be really cool, right? The Mastery camo is like dark matter, and it's all this purple, glowy, it's animated, right? But Black Ops 3 is a great example. That was really cool, and that's still really cool. But versus all the camos that you get, you actually, like, later on they added Cosmic Camo, which is this, like, space, right? But it's green. But it's animated, it's lightning, which is better than every single camo, except the Mastery Camo, where you have to get every single gun, every single camo in the entire game. So I can just get that at launch now. That'd be my problem. If there's a Mastery Camo, are they going to sell camos that are just as cool as the grind one? And then there's no point in grinding because I just bought one.
Probably.
That's my only thing, which we don't know if they're going to do that or not. If they're going to have wraps or blueprints, because there are attachments, so they could release blueprints. But from what I know from what the main dev of the game has said, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
I mean, I guess the closest comparison we would have is technically they did Rainbow Six as well. So you could probably look at the item shops on that, and that would be the closest comparison we'd have.
Probably.
I've never touched that, so I don't know how that...
Yeah, I don't think... Like I said, generally that's not that bad because you can still play the game, you can get the attachments, and it doesn't affect that. It's mostly just cosmetics. So as long as they just keep it cosmetics and don't change the way the scopes look and giving you an advantage, I don't mind. And I think it will definitely have a lot more input from the community. We'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, though, it's releasing in a few weeks. So I'm definitely downloading that day one. I'm excited because I've been wanting to play COD. I really enjoyed the beta or the playtest. and I just been itching. But then obviously Call of Duty has been kind of mid. So I'm really looking forward to this, and like I said, it is free to play.
Cool.
But there's some other indie ones. Do you want to talk about like some of these like horror games that I feel like are also really big?
Which ones?
I don't know.
Just
Like Bendy?
indie horror games? Oh, I guess, yeah. That's,
Kind of a big one. FNAF. Wait, is FNAF mainstream now? Or is it still indie?
It's still an indie because it depends on what developer it's coming from. So it is still indie. But like, it's hard to call ones like that indie after they've had so many games. There's so much hype around it. Like,
not to mention the music.
As
right?
of
There's
right
so
now,
much
I don't
music
really
from
think of Bendy as an indie game because it's a franchise now. It has books. It has a movie coming out. It has multiple games. It's coming out with like 3 games over the next like 1 or 2 years, which is insane. So I don't know. It's hard to think of those as indie games.
Would you classify Terraria as indie?
Yes.
Even though it's like it is like the highest rated and like most sold.
Well, they
Steam
haven't
game.
produced like any other games, have they?
No.
So it's indie.
And that's like you're saying, like it's hard, right? Because it's such a big. At this point, Terraria is a franchise. It's on everything. You know, it's been around for how many years? It's on the side of Minecraft, but it's just one. It's just one game by this one studio. So indie. And I feel like that's showing that there are still good games out. Not Terraria, right? Terraria's good, but that's old at this point. But like you said, like, Bendy's coming out with multiple games soon.
It's kind of fascinating when you look at it because there's such a contrast. Like, obviously, we have good indie games and we have good AAA games. And, like, I really enjoyed the Jedi Survivor game and I enjoyed the most recent Assassin's Creed game, but those are AAAs. And so there's a certain bar you have to expect with those AAA games. Like, it has to be this quality. It has to be not, like, that buggy. But then you come over and you look at some of the indie games. It's like, it's a good example, like Slime Rancher 2. I've played that game a lot, dumped probably way too many hours in it, but it's an indie game. Not only does it like say ahead of time, hey, we are still actively developing this, but it's, listed as a game preview. So already your bar is kind of like, oh, this is going to be buggy. It's probably not going to be, feel like a finished game. Then you play it and it's like, why is this a game preview? I experienced no bugs on my way through. I enjoyed it. It had a significant story, and it's still being supported and getting updates.
I just looked it up. Released September 22nd, 2022.
What is?
Slime Rancher 2.
Oh, it came out?
2 years ago.
As a game preview. Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to be fair, so was Fortnite for almost all of Chapter 1.
Very fair.
And there might be some reasons there. Like, they might want to do something and are slowly working on adding stuff.
Well, the way they did Slime Rancher 1 was the same way, where it was a game preview, and once they, had their final, like, big content update, that's when it came out. And Grounded just did the same thing, where they had all their content updates, then they released the game, and it came to PlayStation as well. So, it's really interesting to see how indie games are handling this as opposed to AAA games, because if a AAA game did that, and it still costed you full price, there would probably be some upset people. They'd be like, oh, why are you selling a game preview at full price that, you're telling us is going to be buggy? Because from AAA studios, we're getting fully released games that should be game previews.
Yeah, I think a great, maybe not like a game preview, but just a great example is something like Cyberpunk 77. Great game. I haven't played it. I don't plan on playing it. But, pretty good game, right? Was it at launch, though?
No.
Could you play it at launch? No. And there's this one guy who said that if you don't enjoy Cyberpunk 2077, because he thinks it's the best game of all time, which is just crazy. That's just wrong. But he said if you do not like it, it is because you're poor and you don't have a good enough PC. One, I know plenty of people that had really good PCs. I'm talking thousands of dollar PCs. They could not handle it. And two, because he also doesn't believe that consoles can run 120 FPS, which again is just wrong. But if we look at consoles, right, which would you say both our consoles are better than your pretty high-end gaming laptop?
Yeah.
Could your Xbox run it at launch? Could my PlayStation run Cyberpunk at launch? No. No. But how much was it at launch? Like $70?
Yeah.
Wait, let me guess. I'm not going to look it up, but we could probably assume there's also probably a deluxe version. So you probably could buy like a $90 game.
Yeah.
That you couldn't run for months. The one Star Wars game also did that, right? That there was the one city and there were some really big performance issues, which that was fixed a lot sooner. But like, those should be game previews.
Yeah, and it's crazy because if that were an indie game, there would be a lot more understanding there, and people would be like, oh, well, this is a small team behind it, and, we kind of got to cut them some slack. Just, leave a review with a note, or maybe send them a performance report, and they can probably get to fixing it, and maybe some optimization in the next update. But then it's a AAA studio, and it's like, how dare you have this in your game? This is supposed to be optimized. When in reality, if we look at most indie game studios, they have just as many people as the AAA game studios.
Oh no, there's like so many cases where it's quite literally like 3 people making a game and they made a better game than a AAA studio with better like performance and everything. It's funny because like when you're saying like AAA, like big companies, I keep seeing every once in a while with the Fortnite updates, because Fortnite's been struggling too. I'm not going to go into it because we have plenty of episodes about it. But I just constantly want to look in the comments on Twitter. It's like multi-billion-dollar company, by the way, with like this really stupid thing that should not still be there.
Yeah.
But we look at like a small studio. Like, how many people do you think work at Relogic?
Oh gosh, 30? Is that way too high?
The Relogic team is made up of 11 experienced and dedicated individuals.
Oh, gosh.
So, Terraria, which is still getting massive updates on all devices, is run by 11 people. 11 people.
Yeah.
But we could have 50 people on just the cosmetics, and you still can't get that right.
It's wild.
So, and I think that's another thing, right? Like, I think another example of that is, like, Minecraft, right? We have Optifine, which is kind of going out for, what's it called, Sodium? For performance, right? And this is possible. There's multiple people that have made performance mods. So why can't Minecraft, like, why can Minecraft not just give us a performance issue? Because they're supposed to be for everyone, right? Like, everyone can play Minecraft on anything and everything. But you really can't.
Yeah.
I can play Terraria, not great, but I can play Terraria easily. Like, not modern stuff, and, it has lag spikes, but I cannot open up Minecraft on my computer without Optifine, because if I open it up, I have to turn off all the graphics and turn off all the particles and turn down my render distance to 1, and I'm still getting 5 FPS looking at the sky. So, but how big of a studio is Minecraft versus, again, Terraria?
Yeah, it's a problem. Like, it really is. And there's so much more appreciation when it comes to these indie devs, because the fact that so few people can do something of such high caliber is just insane. Like, I've been playing through a game called High on Life over the past few days. I just beat it today. That is an indie game, but it looks...
What's the studio?
Let me look.
Because I'm interested to see how big these studios are.
Games. Squanch. But yeah, the game itself, graphically, while it is animated, it looks just as good as any AAA game that comes out, like any FPS shooter that comes out would look like. So the fact that it is that good looking, has so much content in it, it's like hugely substantial. Dude, they got a Jack Black cameo.
51-70 in
but
place.
Like, that's insane for an indie studio that they made a game like that. It had 0 performance issues on launch, did amazing, and then here we are with like the newest Assassin's Creed games. They come out, they have performance issues. There's some things that released that weren't supposed to. There's like some areas in the game where you just can't go, quests that don't work, stuff like that. It's like you have double, if not triple, the amount of people that indie game had, and the same amount of time that they had, and somehow your product came out so much more broken and discombobulated than theirs did.
So, CD Projekt Red is the studio behind Cyberpunk 2077, and they have over 1,000 employees. Maybe Cyberpunk 2077. But the 50 people can make a full game, works, lockdown.
It's crazy.
And I think this is good, honestly. I think this is a good change, because another example of just the struggle with AAA versus indie is, did you see about that one woman who wanted to release a game that she worked like 10 years on Women's Day, International Women's Day?
No.
So she released a game, and it was doing good. And then, do you know who also released some games? EA released re-released like 10 games, and nobody talked about her game at all. Her game was like just nowhere. You could not find it because EA re-released not even new games. There were re-releases.
On what?
Their games on International Women's Day, because it's like, oh wait, look, we're cool.
But of what?
I don't remember. It was like 10 different. It was 10 different games releases. Might have been whatever. But like. It shows, like, just how much power AAA has, right? The studio that people don't like, because I'd say it's pretty common that people don't like EA, but it's still EA. And that's the thing, right? Like you said with the boycotts, there's people that just don't care. These studios, like, people just don't care that this game costs a lot of money. They're going to keep playing Call of Duty. They're still going to be buying packs. There's people that don't care about, like, any of this. They're going to keep playing, because they enjoy the game itself. Like Tarkov, right? There's plenty of people that are going to keep playing it, even if there was a boycott, because they enjoy that game, because there's very few games that are like that. Or that just feel like that, like Call of Duty, right? Xcompliant felt great, but it's not Call of Duty. And I wish I can just play the older Call of Duties, but I can't with multiple reasons. And it's just hard, because it just has this feel that no matter what, the AAA title, like AAA is still going to be AAA for a reason. But I think it's a good shift if we can try to shift more towards these indie devs and be more hype and realize that these aren't indie anymore. These are just normal devs. I think that's where we need to go. That these aren't just indie, they're just the normal devs. Some of these.
A lot of these studios can easily grow to become their own form of AAA if they just continue doing what they're doing, and if people, continue to support them and enjoy their games. We could end up, I don't want to say dethroning, but kind of making less relevant the beasts that we have on top of the gaming pedestals.
That's what I was kind of
now.
going for. It's like, no matter what, whether we like EA or not, EA is still going to be EA. Like, it's going to be one of the giants of the publishers. But if we can move, we could possibly move and get some of these other developers and move them up. Like, hey, like, they're making another game. Let's give them some more employees. And let's also not make it... I think that's another thing, right? We shouldn't try to dethrone and make new AAA studios, because eventually, money... This is how it always goes. Money is always, like, the root of all evil, this and that. If we make them AAA studios, and they're actual AAA studios, they're going to be consumed by greed too.
Like,
that's
imagine
inevitable.
a world where an indie's, like, studio name is as recognizable as when somebody says EA, Like, if I were to say, like, just for an example, the Meatly, and everybody knows who I'm talking about, it kind of, it gives it more... What's the word I'm looking
Credibility?
for? I guess, yeah, like more... yeah, sure, we'll go with that. It gives it more credibility to the name, and people are able to... I'm just going to drop this sentence. It's not working. I can't words right now.
All right, so don't let JJ make a AAA studio, because I don't think he can form the sentence to say that he's forming a AAA studio.
I'm forming ascendants.
You missed half the words there, but close enough, bud.
Sorry.
Anyway. No, I think this is going in the right direction as we are losing faith, and I think honestly it's a good thing because again, we're gonna get our way because they know that they can't keep doing this. We're getting our way. We're getting more and more games that are relevant to the people. Whether it's a small indie horror game, whether that's a big multiplayer game like Xcompliant, like it's to the people and it's what the people want. Well, and anything else? Is there any other, like, I know you play a lot more games. Is there any other, like, big AAA game that you had, like, saw some problems with, or an indie game that you're like, this is crazy how good this is, and we can look up how small their team is and bash the AAA?
Oh gosh. Well, Diablo 4, when that came out, that had some pretty interesting bugs, and it was also one of the most atrociously priced item shops out of any supposedly, quote, single-player game we've had in a long time.
Oh
so,
my.
What?
Over 9,000 employees involved in various teams for Diablo 4.
Yeah. And they have a simple, like, imagine like a skin bundle in Fortnite, you know, that's like $50 in Diablo 4.
Oh.
Yeah. It's insane.
Okay.
And they have a battle pass, but guess what? You progress so slowly that you would have to play every day, almost all day to get to tier 100, or, you know, you could just spend $100 and get 50 tiers.
So kind of like how there is a Black Cell bundle in Call of Duty 1, which is quite literally $30 every season, which I want to say if $30, I think that's too much, but it's not that big of a deal, right? If Fortnite had a $30 battle pass and you got extra stuff, it's like the base, there's the free tier, there's the premium, and there's extra premium maybe, right? I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. The problem that I have with a $30 battle pass is the fact that it is on a $70 game.
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem. If it was free and it was Warzone, okay. But the fact that you can spend $70 and then have to buy $30 every few months,
and maybe not even have a chance to get
and
all
then,
of
yeah,
the
it's
items
limited,
that you
so
paid
you
for.
Not get like that's insane.
I think I've said this before, and the only time I've seen this done right is with Halo the Master Chief Collection, where they released battle passes, and yes, these things costed money, but guess what? You can go back and do them after that season is over. You just select the one you want to do, pay for the premium track, and boom, you can put all of your XP from that season into that battle pass instead of the current one if you want to. So that's the only time I've seen it done where it's like a highly priced game is able to have a battle pass that is a little bit pricier, but it makes it worth your money because you're able to fully get everything out of it that you wanted to.
It's rough out here.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing which we could totally do a whole other episode on, and we kind of talked about with FOMO. Go listen to that episode. We just kind of talked about how these games are just trying to really rack in as much time. And I think another great example is that's Fortnite, and we really see that where their biggest currencies are time. When we go to like creative and stuff, your time is what pays. Like your wallet isn't that big of a deal. It is your time. Especially with mobile games, we should also go listen to that episode, and like ads and stuff, right? YouTube, all these kind of websites and stuff, they get paid by ad revenue. And again, like, I think do we do an episode on ads? We should do an episode on ads.
We should.
Anyway, we might do an episode on ads, and we're going to talk about that, but that's throughout multiple episodes. You just go listen to all those. Listen to every episode. Why haven't you listened to every episode? JJ, why haven't
go
you listened
back
to
and
every
listen.
episode?
Come on, people. You're
why you're listening
I
to
know
this
you're
going to have questions about it, right? So if you have questions about this, and our thoughts on some new games, some indie games, some AAA games, and the progression, just join Discord. Ask us.
Yeah, just come, yell at us for all the things we get wrong, because
we do. We're
we
stupid.
Do.
Anyway, if you like indie and small, go follow our Instagram at Rap Podcast, because it's a small podcast Instagram. Make sure you follow, notify when we do more. I don't know where I'm going with that. We're ending it now. Bye.